there has been several times that we have gone back and forth and we have talked about being able to get past all of this.
The indictment alleges that Freeman made several false statements and omissions in the bankruptcy petition filed in January.
Keith Freeman, what are you up to? This situation is very interesting. So Keith Freeman is asking the court to cancel forgiveness of his debts. Is Keith Freeman trying to finesse his way out of trouble? This is highly unusual, but nothing about this story is usual. Let's get into it. It seems like every day there's something new happening with this saga of Tiffany Henyard, the super mayor of Dalton and the township. You think, okay, maybe you'll have maybe a day or two of nothing happening. There's always something happening. So we're going to get into it talking about Keith Freeman or this court situation that happened yesterday. And you see right here, approve the voluntary waiver of discharge executed by Keith Douglas Freeman, the debtor. This request is asking the court to cancel the forgiveness of his debt. Based on the executive waiver, the debtor, Keith Freeman, is aware of the consequences of his waiver and decision to waive the discharge is voluntary. After receiving and reviewing the waiver, the debtor decides to execute the voluntary waiver of discharge attached hereto as Exhibit A. So this is definitely a really interesting play that Keith Freeman is doing. Wherefore, the U.S. trustee respectively requests that this court enter an order approving Keith Douglas Freeman's waiver of discharge, and for any further relief that this court deems just and equitable. Keith Douglas Freeman, the debtor, intending to waive any discharge he might be entitled to the above captioned bankruptcy proceeding under penalty of perjury. And this is Keith Freeman right here. I represent that I have executed this waiver voluntarily after consultation with my counsel, that this waiver represents a conscious and informed judgment to waive my discharge in bankruptcy in the above captioned bankruptcy proceeding. I am aware of the consequences of entering into this waiver, and that I specifically understand all of my debts and obligations which exist as of the date that I filed in this bankruptcy proceeding. Whether or not such debts and obligations were listed on my schedules shall not be dischargeable in this or any future Chapter 7 bankruptcy proceeding, which I have made filed, provided, however, that this waiver is not to be construed as an admission by me of any wrongdoing. And then you see Keith Freeman and his signature. But let's take it back to the beginning. Keith Freeman filed for bankruptcy, which usually means he wants to have his debts forgiven. But in this situation, it's about why his debts should not be forgiven. It's quite unusual. Let's get into the key reasons of this motion. Keith Freeman is accused of hiding money from his creditors, which means he did not tell the court or the people he owes about all the money and assets that he has. So he made false statements. He's also accused of lying about his income. For example, he said he earned much less money than he actually did. Freeman reported his total income for 2022 as $45,186. Investigations revealed that his actual income was much higher. His income included a $100,000 salary from his position in Dalton alone, plus additional income from his roles and quote-unquote consulting business. For 2023, Freeman claimed his gross income was $99,646, while his actual income was approximately $195,000. Keith Freeman did not follow the court's orders and rules. For example, he was supposed to provide certain documents and attend hearings, but he did not do any of those things properly. When asked questions under oath, Freeman gave false answers. He said he wasn't employed by Dalton and didn't receive payments, but none of that was true. Also, Keith Freeman did not tell the court about a claim against him by the Village of Robbins. He owes them $90,396 for unauthorized payments he received while working there. Not disclosing this claim meant the Village of Robbins could not participate in the bankruptcy process properly. When you file for bankruptcy, you must be honest about your financial situation. The court needs to know all about your income, assets, and debts to make a fair decision. And when you decide to hide information and lie, it's considered fraud, which is a very serious crime. The motion is asking the court to deny Freeman's request to have his debts forgiven. So if the court grants the motion, Freeman will still have to pay his debts, and he might face further legal action or penalties for his fraudulent actions, allegedly. This is extremely interesting because the federal investigation into Keith Freeman, a senior administrator for Dalton and Thornton Township, began after he filed for Chapter 7 bankruptcy back in January 3rd. This investigation uncovered that Freeman made several false statements and omissions in his bankruptcy filings. Like we said earlier, underreporting his income and failing to disclose certain assets and claims against him. So this is weird. I'm not a lawyer, obviously. I know I may look like Nate the lawyer. I know we're both black, have glasses, and wear dreads, but I'm not a lawyer. But it seems to me that Keith Freeman's bankruptcy case is definitely not straightforward. It seems like there's some other things into play. We'll talk about that a little later. But instead of having his debts forgiven, he's facing serious allegations of fraud and dishonesty. But the question is, why now? What is he trying to do? He's knee deep being the senior official of the village of Dalton and the township alongside Freeman. Tiffany Henyard, the mayor and the supervisor, is also under scrutiny for various issues. So the question is, what the hell is Keith Freeman trying to do? So let's get into some possible theories for Freeman's actions. What is he trying to do? By voluntarily waiving the discharge of his debts, Freeman might be attempting to show good faith to the court and try to mitigate potential penalties from ongoing fraud investigations. Admitting to some level of wrongdoing can potentially reduce harsher consequences. Also, this could be just a preventive measure. Keith Freeman might anticipate that the court finding substantial evidence against him, so voluntarily waiving his discharge could be a preemptive move to gain favor in the legal process. So he could be snitching already. He could be already trying to find a way to get out of the situation as cleanly as possible to become basically an informant for the federal government. He's a part of the team now, because now the fact that he is showing some level of contrition, realizing that he was trying to finesse the federal government with this bankruptcy, that he is admitting some wrongdoing and get himself out of facing serious time in federal prison. And of this whole group of the super mayor and her administration, Keith Freeman is probably the cleverest of all of them, the smartest, and that's not saying much, but he can realize that a long time ago that the jig is up and he needs to save himself, because everyone is going to start turning on each other eventually, especially now that the feds are here. So if I was Tiffany Henyard, I would be concerned with this situation. But let's even speculate a little deeper. What if he's facing some kind of political pressure or retaliation? Freedom's actions may be influenced by his close association with Tiffany Henyard. Henyard herself is embroiled in multiple legal battles and controversies, including federal investigations into her administration. Keith Freeman's decisions could be attempts to align with Henyard's legal strategies or to shield her from further scrutiny. Is he still loyal to Tiffany Henyard? According to lawsuits, some employees were allegedly terminated for not supporting Tiffany Henyard. Freeman's close ties to Henyard might imply that his legal troubles and decisions are partly due to the retaliation or loyalty pressures within this little group here. I mean, Henyard can fire Keith Freeman at any time. And that six-figure job that he probably needs now, considering that now he's responsible for some of these debts, he's going to need that job, because it's highly unlikely he's going to get another six-figure job working for another government. I mean, he still owes about $100,000 to the village of Robbins, or he's just concealing more misconduct. This could be part of a larger scheme to conceal financial misconducts within the administration of Dalton and Dalton Township. It's possible, but at the same time, the feds are going to probably uncover everything. And obviously, he's going to want to try to protect whatever assets he has left by waiving the discharge voluntarily. Freeman might be attempting to manage which assets are scrutinized by the court, potentially protecting assets that were not disclosed or not entangled with Henyard's financial matters. But Freeman is just in a lot of trouble. Keith Freeman's decision to file the voluntary motion can be a complex legal strategy influenced by his entanglement with Tiffany Henyard and her political issues. What do you guys think about this situation? Thank you for taking time to watch this video, and I'll see you guys in the next video.